In the last lecture, you learned how to use the object literal syntax to create an object. But there is a tiny problem here. Imagine you want to create two circle objects. So I'm going to copy this code here and call this second circle object circle2. Now the problem we have here is that we have duplicated the implementation of the draw method. So right now it's a simple method. It has only a single line of code. But what if we had 10 lines of code here? We wouldn't want to repeat all these lines here, because if we have a bug in this method, then we would have to fix it in multiple places. And also take into account that our circle object currently has only a single method. What if we had 10 other methods here? We don't want to duplicate or repeat all that logic, right? So if our objects have logic, we need a different way to create objects. That's when we use factory or constructor functions. In this lecture, you're going to learn about factory functions, and we'll look at constructor functions next. So I'm going to delete this second circle and show you how to create a factory function. So factory function. Just like a factory producing products, these factory functions produce objects. So we define a function and call it create circle. Now we're going to move this definition of the circle object inside of our factory function. So we have a circle object here. Finally, we need to return this. Now, one way is to return it like this, but we don't really need this circle constant defined because we are not going to reference it anywhere. We only want to return it. So we can make this code shorter by removing the circle constant and simply returning this object. So whenever we call the create circle function, we'll get a circle object. However, we have hard-coded these values here. So every circle that is created by this function, its radius will be 1. That's not what we want. Maybe we want to have a circle with a bigger radius. So we want to pass radius as a parameter here. So radius. And then instead of hard coding 1, we want to set the value to this radius argument that we supply when calling this function. Similarly, we can add another parameter here like location. And instead of hard coding this object here, we can simply set location to this location argument. However, for simplicity, I'm going to remove these two properties, location and is visible, so we can focus on the core of factory functions. So let's delete these properties. We don't need the location parameter either. Now we can make this code a little bit shorter. So in modern JavaScript, if our key and value are the same, we can make our code shorter by removing the value and simply adding the key. So that is exactly equivalent to this code, right? So that is better. Next, we have our draw method. There is also a shorter syntax to define this method. So instead of defining it as a key value pair, we can define it like this. So draw, parentheses, and a code block. This is similar to how we define a function outside of an object, right? So if you want to define a function, this is how we define it, right? So we have the function keyword, then the name of the function, parentheses, and code block. Now, when we put this inside of an object, basically we're dropping the function keyword and simply adding this inside of the object. You can see this syntax is a little bit shorter than what we have here. So let me delete this and move this console.log statement in our draw method. So now we have a factory function. We can simply call this to create a circle object. So I'm going to define this constant circle1 and call the create circle function and pass 1 as the radius. Now let's log this circle object on the console. Circle1, save the changes. So you can see radius is set to 1. We also have this draw method. So we can call circle1.draw, and here's our draw message on the console. Now the beauty of this factory function is that we have defined our logic in one place. So we can call this function with different values or different arguments we get different circle objects, but we have defined the draw method only in one place. So if there is a bug in this method that we need to fix in the future, there is a single place that we need to modify. So now I'm going to create another circle object, circle2, create circle. I'm going to pass 2 as the radius. Let's log this on the console, circle2, save the changes. Look, we have 2 different circle objects and a single definition of the draw method. So this is all about factory functions. But factory functions are not the only way to create objects. We can also use constructor functions, and that's what you're going to learn next.